Hello everyone and welcome back. Let's continue our discussion on our exercise. Okay, in the last lecture we stopped after the init method, and the next method we have is the deposit method. It takes one attribute, amount, and this method will deposit amount if our account balance is greater than 0. So for that, first it has to be active, right? For our account to be active means its balance is greater than 0. So if self that is active, if that's true, which we have down here, right, that checks, the isActive method checks if our balance is greater than 0. So if balance is greater than 0, add or deposit whatever amount you want to deposit, and it will return the final balance after the amount is deposited, or else it will return false and we'll have a message saying you will need to go to the nearest branch. So if they have a negative balance, they'll have to go to the closest branch office. Then we have a withdraw method, which takes the attribute amount, and this method will withdraw an amount if balance is over 500. So by default we start with a value of false, and to withdraw some money, first the account has to be active and the balance has to be over 500. That's why we use AND. AND means both of these conditions have to be true. So it has to be active, and also the minimum balance has to be greater than 500. That means self.balance minus the amount is greater than self.minimum balance. So I cannot have a balance of, let's say, $500 and try to take out $600. Okay, and that will later give us the balance after we withdraw the amount we want to withdraw, or else we'll display a message saying you'll need a minimum balance of greater than 500. And finally this message will return the result, either true or false, right? And here we have our setActive method, and this method will activate or deactivate our account, and it takes one attribute. And finally we have our isActive method, and this method will set the amount to be active if balance is greater than 0. Otherwise it will return false. Great. Next, let's instantiate our myAccount class. Okay, and then let's save it in a variable called account. Okay, and we'll set the account to be equal to account. So we are initializing our class object, our class myAccount, and let's pass. So our account takes, our class myAccount takes, in addition to self, it takes 3 attributes, right? Account number, name, and balance. So account number, you can pass any number that you like. I'll just pass 54545. Account number, is it name next or balance? Next is name and then balance. Name, let's say Jane, and then balance, let's start with a balance of $1,000. Okay, now that we have our account object, if we say account dot and then hit tab on your keyboard, you'll see the various methods and attributes that we have for our account object, right? We have account.name, account.deposit, account.balance, and so on. So let's deposit some amount. So account.deposit, let's deposit 300. So initially our balance is what? 1000, and now we are depositing 300. Let's run it. So it's true. That's because our account is active and we are able to deposit if our balance is greater than 0. So now if we check our balance, it should be what? 1000 plus 300, which is 1300. So if we call the account.balance method, we have 1300, right? So at this instance, if we check if our account is active or inactive, it should be true. It should be active, right? Since our balance is greater than 0. So if we check that, it's true. Next, let's see what other methods that we have. Let's try to withdraw some money. So we'll choose withdraw. So account.withdraw. Let's withdraw $800. So if we run it, so here account.withdraw 800, it says you will need a minimum balance of greater than 500. And then we're not able to withdraw. It returned false. So if we take 800 out of 1300, that means we'll be left with exactly $500. And for us to make a withdrawal, we have set it to have a balance of greater than 500 to remain in our account. So in this case, if we change the amount to $799, we should be able to withdraw, right? Because $501 will be left. So we should be able to withdraw. Let's run it. So now it's true. If we call our balance attribute, now we should be left with what? $501? Yes, 501. Now we won't be able to withdraw. So if we try to withdraw an additional amount, even $10, that will be false. And it says you'll need a minimum balance of greater than 500, right? Should we be able to deposit now? Yes. As long as our balance is greater than 0, we should be able to deposit. So account.deposit, let's deposit $100. True. Now if we check the balance, account.balance should be 601. Now we can withdraw some amount. We can withdraw, for instance, $41, and that will return true. True. Now our balance should be 601 minus 41, which is 560, right? Other things that we can check for our account. So account.hit tab. Currently is our account active? That's true. What other things can we check? Okay, if we check the is active method also, we'll get true for our account is active. What else? If we call for minimum balance attribute, it should be at least $500, right? So our minimum balance is 500. So we can change that minimum balance to 501. So let's change the minimum balance to 501. That way it goes along with the other parameters. To withdraw, the account has to be greater than 500. You'll need a minimum balance of greater than 500. Or we can say greater than or equal to 501. You can use that. You have the idea. I'll just leave it like this. Okay. Let's run it again. Count that deposit. Now, if we check the balance, 1300, we should be able to deposit, run the balance, 1400. We should be able to withdraw 750. That's true. If we call the minimum balance now, it should be 501. Then what else? Account that. Name should be Jane. Okay. Now let's instantiate another object of our class. Let's say account2 is equal to my account, and then it takes 3 attributes: account number, name, let's say Smith, and then balance. Let's start with a 0 balance or negative amount. Okay, let's say negative 100. Now if we check if account 2 is active, that should be false, right? Because the balance is less than 0. So if we call our isActive method, we'll get false. And if we try to deposit an amount, we won't be able to deposit, because in order for us to make a deposit, the balance has to be greater than 0. So account that, let's call the deposit method. If we try to deposit, let's say $2,000, it should display the message, where is it? Go and check your nearest branch. Yes. So you'll need to go to the nearest branch. So let's run it. It says you'll need to go to the nearest branch. Let me show you one more thing. Let's instantiate another object of our class method. Account3 is equal to my account. Let's say account number is that, and name is, let's say, Joe, and balances, let's say 3,000, right? So if we check if account is active now, account 3 that is active, it should be true. However, so once the account is active, we should be able to withdraw or deposit any amount that we want, right? I mean, as long as it's a valid amount. Let's say we can deposit 200, that should return true, and we can withdraw some amount. Let's say we can withdraw $400 in this case, it's true. And if we check the balance, we have 2,800. And one thing we can do is, we have this active method that we can use, the setActive method that we can use to activate or deactivate our account. So we can call the setActive method. So we have our account3 that setActive, and it takes, in addition to self, it takes another attribute, right? It takes one more attribute, and by default we have set it to be equal to true. And if we pass this false parameter, it will set the account to be inactive. So now if I check a country that is active, that will be false, because now I have changed it to inactive, right? Initially by default it was true, but now I have set it to false, right? By calling the set active method. So this is like if you want to freeze the account of a person, you know, no matter how much balance you have, banks can freeze your account for some reason or another. So this is a similar method. We can also do that, right? Just wanted to quickly show you this method, the set active method. Great. As an exercise for you, you can also change this minimum balance amount to, let's say, $50 or $300 or $1,000, and try to change some of the conditions and see if you can get or withdraw or deposit amount and so on. Great. Thank you everyone, and I'll see you at the next lecture.